tonight, WWE presents Money in the Bank from Fort Worth, Texas. And of course, it wouldn't be a Money in the Bank event, would it, without the Money in the Bank ladder match. We've done a preview talking about the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and we're going to be talking about the male side of things in this preview video. But we're going to be talking about the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. You can see the competitors on the screen right there. There's King Nakamura, there's Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Biggie. And then from Monday Night Raw, you have Riddle, Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, and John Morrison. So I spoke about this earlier on when we did the preview video for the women's side of things, that reportedly, and again, I don't know this to be completely accurate or not, but reportedly, WWE, Vince McMahon, they're uncertain as to who they want to give the Money in the Bank briefcases to this year. I think on the women's side of things, I think it was a bit more difficult to predict. And I do think changes can and will happen in that match. The one thing I will say about the male side of things is there are certainly names in here that all would make sense. I think, I wouldn't say every single person in this match, an argument could be made that they should be holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, but there's certainly a few names here, and I think it's a difficult one to predict. And I think that's what WWE are looking at here. They're trying to realize which is the best direction to go in. I think that's what they're looking at. They have to realize that, do we want to have a Money in the Bank holder that's these are all established stars, but it's a lesser name that hasn't been the world champion before, and we can elevate them into a world championship picture? Do we want to go into that direction, or do we want to give it to an established name and have them cash in the championship or the briefcase relatively quickly? There's certainly lots of different options that they could go in for this one. So let's do what we did in the women's side of things. Let's go through the competitors in the match, and let's try and rank the likelihood as to who is going to leave Texas with that Money in the Bank briefcase tonight. So the first name you can see up there, it's King Nakamura. I think he is right up there, I think, with John Morrison as the name that I don't see winning this Money in the Bank briefcase. Look, Shinsuke Nakamura, for me, still has a part to play on WWE television. For me, Shinsuke Nakamura, when he came to the main roster in 2017, that was his time. He should have been the WWE champion, or certainly in 2018, he should have been the WWE champion. But we know Vince McMahon's issues with someone if you have an accent. If you, for whatever reason, in the eyes of Vince McMahon, if you can't cut a promo or you don't have a great command of the English language, which isn't even true for Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura can speak fine English. He just has a thick Japanese accent. And because of that, Vince McMahon takes one look at him and goes, nope, can't be a WWE champion. Nope, he can't do it. He can be great in the ring. He can be this, he can be that. He can be upper mid-card, babyface or heel. Multiple-time Intercontinental Champion, United States Champion. That's Nakamura's limit. And he's got the crown now. So that's what that is. He's not winning Money in the Bank. I would be floored, absolutely floored, if Shinsuke Nakamura won the Money in the Bank, especially with Rick Boogs as the guy's manager. No disrespect to Rick Boogs, of course, but Nakamura isn't. He's not winning the Money in the Bank ladder match tonight, unfortunately. So I think we can rule out Shinsuke. Seth Rollins is probably one of the favorites in this one. For me, he's right up there with your Biggies and your Drew McIntyres. There is certainly an avenue they can go down when it comes to Seth Rollins. Now, previously, I would have said that I would have picked Seth Rollins to win the match. I'm going to say that he doesn't win the match now. The reason why is because he actually retrieved the briefcase on SmackDown on Friday. Usually, that's an indicator that you're not going to win the match, or you're not going to win, a title, or certainly the Money in the Bank ladder match. They always do the go-home show, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, heading into Money in the Bank with someone climbing the ladder and someone retrieving the briefcase. They've done it for years. Finn Balor, Chris Jericho. The only time that I think someone actually did retrieve the briefcase on the go-home show and ended up winning the match, I think it's Randy Orton. 2013, Randy Orton, it was the go-home show for Money in the Bank on Monday Night Raw, and he climbed the ladder and retrieved the briefcase. That Sunday, he did the same thing. He climbed the ladder, retrieved the briefcase. It was for the WWE Championship contract. He won that match. And he cashed it in at SummerSlam, of course, infamously on Daniel Bryan, after Bryan had been screwed by Triple H after defeating John Cena in the main event of that show. So I think it's only Orton that's been able to do that in the past, as to be the person that retrieved the briefcase on the go-home show and then still ends up winning the match overall. So I don't think Seth Rollins will win it. I think there would have been a school of thought, and we know we're getting Seth Rollins versus Edge at SummerSlam, by the way. They teased that once again on SmackDown on Friday too. after Edge had his 6-man tag team match. He was doing a backstage interview there with Seth Rollins, and he was facing off with Edge, and they were teasing and talking about what had happened 7 years ago on Monday Night Raw, on that New Year's Eve edition of Monday Night Raw, where Rollins threatened to break Edge's neck to get the Authority back in power. I'm glad that they're addressing that. And it's been heavily reported, widely reported, that we're getting Rollins versus Edge at SummerSlam. So we know that's happening. It's just a case of trying to figure out how we get there, the route that they're going to take to get to that destination. One route that I mentioned before on social media that I did kind of like, but I don't think they'll go in this direction now, was Seth Rollins winning the Money in the Bank ladder match tonight. And then he tries to cash it in after or during the Edge versus Roman Reigns match. He tries to essentially do a repeat of what happened at WrestleMania 31, where midway through the match, he cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase like he did against Reigns and Brock Lesnar, cashes in that Money in the Bank briefcase, and then wins the championship. He wins the Money in the Bank briefcase tonight. He tries to do the same thing. This time he tries to do it on Edge because, as he mentioned on SmackDown, imagine doing it on the guy that really innovated the concept of cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase. How great would that be? So he comes out to the ring, cashes it in. Looks like he's going to win the match, but who spears him? Edge. Edge spears Rollins. Reigns throws Edge out the ring, then pins Rollins, gets the victory. So that's your story there. Reigns beats Edge, retains the championship, but also he could then be a case of Rollins is furious because he thinks that Edge cost him the Universal Championship, something he's been desperate for. Then they spin off and do their own thing. I think that's the direction they could go in. But to be honest with you, again, with Rollins capturing the briefcase on SmackDown on Friday, I don't know if I see that now. I think they'll probably find a different way to go to that direction. So I think Rollins isn't going to win this one. Kevin Owens could hold the Money in the Bank briefcase in the sense that he holds it for nearly a year, and then sometime later on this year or early next year, as we head into WrestleMania, he maybe cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase for the WWE Championship. I could see them maybe trying to do that. I just don't know if Owens has been in the Universal Championship picture earlier this year. He doesn't feel hot enough to be in that spot right now, and I think he's sometimes you have these competitors in these matches, they don't have a lot going on creatively. They're just glue. So I don't think Owens wins this one. I personally, whilst Owens is a great babyface, I think he needs to turn heel and do something different. Again, the character does feel a little bit stale. The only issue is that any crowd you're going to be going to doesn't want to boo actively Kevin Owens anymore. He's such an over guy, but I don't think he wins tonight. Speaking of people that I think will win, Biggie. Biggie, I think, is going to be my pick to win this one. I think Biggie, the reason why he was split up from the New Day during the draft last year was because WWE, like everyone's been saying for a long time about Biggie, everyone recognizes and realizes this guy can be a WWE champion. This guy can be a Universal champion. This guy can win world championships, be in main event pictures. It's just a matter of giving him the right push. That's why he was separated from the New Day. And he had success on SmackDown, Intercontinental Champion. But the issue holding him back on SmackDown is that he is on the same brand as Roman Reigns. And they have to find the right timing, because if they do a match between Biggie and Roman Reigns within the next couple of months, Biggie loses. He will lose to Roman Reigns because the plan is to have Roman Reigns holding that Universal Championship until WrestleMania next year at the earliest. He could hold it even further than that. And I don't think WWE would mind about that. And I don't think, frankly, the fans would mind that much about that either. So I think WWE's been wise not to pull the trigger and having Biggie in a main event spot against Roman Reigns because he would lose. The positive is that if you win, of course, this Money in the Bank briefcase, you don't have to cash it in on your brand's champion, that being Roman Reigns. In Big E's case, you can go to Monday Night Raw and cash in the WWE champion. I think that's where Big E could thrive. There's been rumors about Big E being drafted to Raw later this year, so he could be drafted to Raw as the holder of the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think he has a better chance of really establishing himself as a main eventer on Monday Night Raw than he does on SmackDown right now because of the Reigns situation. I pitched this scenario on Twitter the other day, and I think a lot of people quite liked it. We know the rumor and the report is that Bobby Lashley's facing Goldberg. Bobby Lashley's facing Goldberg at SummerSlam. Goldberg's going to be returning Monday night on Raw. It's going to set up a match, a WWE Championship match between Lashley and Goldberg. Disgusting. No one wants to see that, but that's what they're doing. The only way I can get behind that creative is that if we see a situation where at SummerSlam, because it's going to be a 3-minute match and Lashley's going to win, if we saw a situation where it's Bobby Lashley, Goldberg, Lashley just eats Goldberg alive. He just destroys him, couple of minutes, hurt lock, spear, whatever you want to do it, beats Goldberg, easy night's work. Easy, done. And Bobby Lashley looks dominant. Then Big E's music plays. Out comes Big E. He grabs a microphone, says, okay, that was impressive, but now it's time for a real WWE Championship match, and cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase. We then have a Big E versus Bobby Lashley 20-minute classic with Big E defeating Bobby Lashley and becoming the WWE Champion. That is a scenario that I can get behind. I think that's a scenario that will pop the crowd. That is a scenario that I think will be a moment, and that is a scenario that establishes Big E as a main event player, as the WWE Champion, and also moves him over to Monday Night Raw by proxy during that period of time, even before the draft later on this year. That, to me, makes a lot of sense. So I think that's the scenario they could go by. I don't know if they will go with that scenario, but I think Big E should win tonight anyway, and then he just holds the Money in the Bank briefcase, and maybe plans will change, and maybe at WrestleMania next year he challenges Roman Reigns. I think Big E's the right call. But whether or not they will go in that direction, who knows? There are other names and other people under consideration here. One of those names is Riddle. Now, people will say Riddle winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. Nah, that's not going to happen. He's a comedy guy. He's a goofy guy. No, he's not going to be. He's not going to be that holder of the briefcase. I would counterpoint to that one and say Otis won the Money in the Bank briefcase last year, so they don't care about comedy guys winning it. Two, for whatever reason, Vince McMahon is a big fan of Riddle and the Riddle character. Evidence of this is that Riddle is all over Monday Night Raw. I mean, all over that broadcast. He is in more segments than any other person on that show, including the WWE Champion himself. So, given the fact that Vince McMahon's obviously a big fan, he obviously thinks Riddle can be a big babyface for Monday Night Raw going forward, who's to say? Who's to say Riddle doesn't win tonight and they don't have some goofy gimmick of, Riddle goes around in a scooter and he's got his flip-flops and he's, all this kind of stuff. You could see segments where he carries his flip-flops in his briefcase and his whoppers in there and all this stupid stuff where he lets out the briefcase and then the pigeons or whatever fly loose, whatever they are, all that kind of stuff. You can see that happening because Vince McMahon loves goofy stuff like that. He loves it. Loves that goofy kind of stuff. So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think he's the favourites. I think Big E and Drew McIntyre are the favourites. But I wouldn't rule that one out because Vince McMahon loves it. He loves the character. He loves the gimmick. He loves goofy stuff. I wouldn't rule it out. Now, I think at SummerSlam it's going to be Riddle and Randy Orton, RK Bro, teaming up to face AJ Styles and Omos for the Raw Tag Team Championship. So even if Riddle wins this tonight, I don't see a situation whereby he will cash it in anytime soon. I think that will happen at some point down the line. But I wouldn't rule it out. As I mentioned, this is a tough match to call because legitimately there are 4 names in this match that can completely win this Money in the Bank briefcase and be very credible in their victory. And you can see lots of different avenues that WWE would be interested in going down. One is Rollins, one is Big E, one is Riddle. The other is Drew McIntyre. Now, Drew McIntyre previously was my favorite to win this one. That's kind of changed a little bit in the last few weeks. The reason I would say that is I thought it was the most obvious outcome because they've painted themselves in a corner, WWE obviously, with Drew McIntyre losing to Bobby Lashley again, at Hell in a Cell, which he should have, by the way. But after losing to Bobby Lashley again, the stipulation was at Hell in a Cell, if I lose this match, I can no longer challenge for the WWE Championship whilst you're the WWE Champion. Well, wouldn't that change things if Drew McIntyre wins the Money in the Bank briefcase? The issue is that if McIntyre wins this Money in the Bank briefcase, again, I think they're walking a tightrope. I really do think they're walking a tightrope. I think the fan reception to McIntyre, I think, is shifting. That's not McIntyre's fault. That's a result of bad booking. That's a result of having McIntyre forced down the throat of fans and without any logic. That's been the problem there, is that people are looking at this and saying, why is this guy getting all of these opportunities at the WWE Championship? We like Drew McIntyre, but we also like fairness, and it doesn't seem fair that he's getting on all these opportunities for the WWE Championship. And I think that if he wins here tonight, people will kind of roll their eyes because they know what they'll be getting. They'll be saying, well, we're going to get McIntyre versus Lashley again. I don't know why, but that's the direction we're going in. We're going to be getting that. So I don't think they'll go in that direction. I think we saw the segment with Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre Monday night on Raw. I think Mahal could get involved here, maybe cost Drew McIntyre the match. And again, I think that's the right outcome. I think that's the right outcome for him because I just think they just need to call him off. Get him out of that WWE Championship picture. It doesn't have to be for a long period of time. Just get him out of that WWE Championship picture and have him do a feud with Jinder Mahal for a couple of months, something like that, and then he can go back into it maybe when Lashley's no longer the WWE champion, or they can do something different. I think they need to be really careful about turning the fans on Drew McIntyre right now because they run the risk of doing that. And that would be really unfortunate for Drew because he really has carried Monday Night Raw through the pandemic, but they have to be careful. They have to be really careful. Now, obviously, the final two names, one being Ricochet. The only way I could see Ricochet winning this match is purely out of a shock upset factor, but he's not winning. The only reason Ricochet is in this match is to do crazy high-flying stunts. Stuff he was doing with John Morrison on Raw was very entertaining, but it doesn't do anything for them. You know, there's no doubt that Ricochet is one of the best in-ring workers on Raw. Some of the things this guy is able to do is crazy. The guy can't cut a promo for his life. I mean, for his life. That's the biggest problem when it comes to Ricochet, and I think people can say, well, the creative and the scripting and the promos that are written for him, that's true. That is very true. And some of the promos that have been written for him in the past have been god-awful. I mean, they have been awful. That whole real-life superhero stuff was just the worst. But at the same time, the guy, even now, when he's cutting promos backstage or whatever, they're just bad. He just can't cut a promo. Give this guy a mouthpiece. Then who knows what he's capable of. Imagine that you had an MVP managing this guy. Anything's possible, but the guy can't cut a promo for his life. So I think Ricochet's in this one purely for the high-flying stuff. He'll do some crazy spots, which will entertain the crowd and all that kind of stuff, but he's not winning. And that kind of goes the same for John Morrison. When you have these Money in the Bank ladder matches, you have the guys in there that can do crazy stuff, can do entertaining stuff, and are going to make people go wow and cheer and entertain the audience during the match. That's why the likes of John Morrison and Ricochet are in there. But they're not going to win the match. John Morrison, I hope, does more. I really do. Even though The Miz is currently injured and sidelined, you kind of, because of how goofy John Morrison's character is right now, the Johnny Drip Drip and all that kind of stuff, you forget just how talented he is. When he was on the indie scene and when he was with Impact Wrestling, this was a guy that was a world champion. This was a guy that was doing great things in Lucha Underground. And he can be serious and he can be a main eventer. During a period of time that Raw was struggling so badly for main eventers and challengers and all that kind of stuff, John Morrison could easily be a babyface that could challenge a Bobby Lashley. But instead, they've got him with, the drip stick and wearing these stupid sunglasses and doing Johnny Drip Drip. And look, don't get me wrong. Some of the stuff he does with The Miz is entertaining. I think a couple of weeks ago when they did the slow-motion wheelchair down the entrance ramp, that was funny. But it's just, every time they start Monday Night Raw with an episode of Miz TV recently, you roll your eyes and you go, because you know where it's going. You know it's going with the stupid stuff. And again, whilst it looks like Morrison's having a good time and he's trying to get some personality across, this is a guy that, he's hardly a spring chicken. He looks great. I mean, I think he's like 40, 41. He looks phenomenal. He looks way better than I look now, let alone at 41. But he is capable of more. And I hope by the time his WWE career is over, that he gets the opportunity to work a couple of main event programs, because he should. I really do think he should. He's that talented. I really do believe that he's that talented. But if you said to Owen, who do you think is going to win this one? Again, it's a tough one. There's 4 names in there: Riddle, Drew McIntyre, Biggie, Seth Rollins, that I could easily see them going in that direction. I'm going to go with Biggie. I'm going to stick with Biggie. I think that McIntyre winning it would be a mistake for McIntyre, which seems a bit contradictory considering winning the match allows him to challenge for the WWE Championship. I just don't think fans want that right now. And I think if WWE do that, I think it's a mistake. Rollins, again, I would have maybe leaned more into Rollins had he not retrieved the briefcase on SmackDown. Given that he did do that, I kind of lean into, I don't think that's going to happen now. Riddle, I could see it happening. I don't think that they have immediate plans for that. And as I mentioned before, in the women's video, sometimes when they do this WWE, when they have the 2 ladder matches, one name holds the briefcase for a while, the other doesn't. So it depends what the other one does. But I'm going to say Biggie. Biggie's my pick, but who knows? WWE could change their mind at any second. Plans change, pal. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts and predictions for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match tonight at Money in the Bank? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.